Welcome back to the Casual GM podcast. I am your host, Drew, and I am joined always by my co host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Drew, how about yourself?
I'm excited to talk about football tonight. So let's just jump right in, shall we?
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, the NFL knows how to run an off season.
Well,
I
so
mean,
like
you've got your...
before we really get into it, I should say the NFL has done a remarkable job turning every phase of the year into some kind of event, so we go from the Super Bowl to the off season to the combine to the draft to the schedule release to off season mini camps and OTAs and stuff like that, then the preseason and roster cut down, and then we're doing week by week stuff. So,
and even the schedule, right? They slow roll it. Hey, these are the locations where the overseas games are going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, here is one of the teams for these things. Oh, here's their opponents. Here's the teams that your favorite team will be playing, but we're not going to tell you the order or whether they're home or away. Like they are masters at making something out of nothing and making you pay attention to the NFL.
It's a production
all year long.
I was listening to, I think it was a podcast by The Athletic a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about what college football could do to mimic what the NFL is doing, and like changing like what time of year you're allowed to transfer, like to the off season, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like they've got 2 signing days now. They're like the early signing period or what have you, which has become the actual real signing day. And then there's like the one that was the traditional signing day, which is the one where you like work out like logistical problems with players who haven't committed yet, that type of thing. So, I mean, I think that they're implementing things. Just the NCAA compared to the NFL is as stark a difference in well-run organizations as you can have. So
you don't find too many people putting well-run in front of the NCAA unless there's also a not.
Right. So I know that Joey started us off tonight with the news that the NBA draft lottery is going to be held tonight. And so I've been seeing, should the NFL have a draft lottery like the NBA does? I will go down swinging and die on the hill that the NFL should absolutely in no way, shape, or form ever adopt a lottery for selecting their draft picks. The NBA, the problem that they have, and now it's a different game than the NFL.
NHL does it as well.
Oh, do they?
They do.
Oh, I saw that because the NHL held their lottery like a week or two ago, and the Red Wings were the 9th worst team, or had a pick that was like the 9th worst in the NHL, but they have not moved up in the lottery in like 13 seasons.
Yeah, we were DFL, dead last, a couple years ago, which means we had the highest likeliness to get the number 1, and we ended up with the number 4. So we fell. The furthest you're allowed to fall was 3 spots. So yeah, we missed out on whatever sweepstakes happened that year for whatever the best player was.
And this year it's some kid named Bedard.
Connor Bedard. Bedard. I think so. I think I'm not sure if I've ever heard it pronounced. I would guess
it's a name
Bedard.
I can pronounce, so I'm thrilled. So
yeah. So the dude is unreal good. He is going to be,
and he's going to be playing for our chief rival, right?
The Chicago Shithawks. Yep.
Yeah. So like the NBA,
they also got the number 1 pick with Patrick Kane a few years back. So
I remember that one.
They got it again.
Isn't he a Hall of Famer?
He will be.
Yeah. So my problem with the NBA has always been that Because in my opinion, like I come from the NFL perspective. So like in my opinion, the worst team should get the best pick.
Yep.
In order to help create parity in the league, right? Like if there are 5 terrible teams that are just starkly different than the teams at the top or even the middle, that does the sports league in general no good, because those are markets that you can't put on television. So like
Yeah.
it benefits them to have players in decent markets that are going to be able to be televised. So like the one that I never understood was like Lonzo Ball going to the Charlotte Hornets. Like Lonzo Ball is an exciting basketball player to watch. Charlotte is a terrible team. Charlotte is in a small market. So Lonzo Ball is probably gone when he will likely happen is he'll sign his max extension and then demand a trade. So like I can't believe that Zion Williamson in New Orleans would be there too, you know, or whatever. Like I imagine that he will force his way out once he signs his big money deal. And these small to mid-market teams are forced to offer them these contracts because if you don't offer them that contract, they'll just leave anyway. So you have to do it. But like the problem I had is that the NBA moved to these things called flattened odds. So like the Detroit Pistons were the worst team in the NBA this year, largely because Cade Cunningham was hurt, and like that hurt. He's their best player, and that hurt their chances of doing pretty much anything. And they only won 17 games, 17 and 65, I believe. So that's awful. Like that's 20% win percentage. And so like it just so happens that like one of the better prospects to come out in a while, Victor Wembanyama, some kid from France, 7'3", plays like a guard, is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. It doesn't matter who gets the pick. Doesn't matter if you're stacked at big guys or whatever, you're going to take this kid. And the Pistons only have like a 33% chance of getting him. And they're the worst team by far in the NBA, no questions asked, this last season. And like they can't fall, their pick can't become worse than the 5th overall pick. But like
how bad does that feel, right?
So
if
like
you were that bad and you dropped from 1 to 5.
So like here's the thing, like there's this lovely little website called Tankathon who keeps track of like draft standing records all and like projections as to like who's gonna like what teams are gonna end up in what spot in their respective leagues. And so they run a little projection lottery up every day this last week and this week, and Detroit has never gotten the number 1 pick, I don't think. Or if it's like once in 7 opportunities, like so like just think about it, like you're the worst team in the league and you only have a 33% of getting the pick that matters.
Yeah.
So like if the NFL went to a system like that with flattened odds, it could be something like like let's say the Cardinals this year, right? Like the Cardinals, Kyler Murray's hurt, they're probably not going to have a lot of wins. They're only projected to have 5.5 per Vegas or whatever. And so Houston Texans are also young and have a rookie quarterback and are not good, and they're also projected to have 5.5 wins. But like, even if Houston and Arizona were 2 of the 3 worst teams in the NFL, that only means that Arizona has 1 in 3 chances to get the number 1 overall pick. And like, that's ridiculous.
I mean, I understand why they're doing it, because the whole tanking thing, right? We want to make sure that our players are playing hard and our teams are trying to win, and there's no suck for luck and all that kind of stuff, right? I get that. I don't think it works. You're still going to suck for luck, even if you've got a 1 in 3 chance to get him, because it's better the 1 in 5 chance or 1 in 7 chance if you didn't. If you're committed to losing to do something, you will do it, even if the benefit is slightly worse. So we might as well assume that they're not going to, or they're going to anyway. And in the guise of like trying to build up the really bad and have that parity, just get rid of the lottery. I'm happy the NFL hasn't done that.
Yeah, to me, the way that the NFL does their draft pick selection is the best way to do it. Like, you have bad teams, you give them the best picks. Therefore, theoretically, the better collegiate players end up going to the worst teams, bringing up the overall quality. You then have a more exciting league where the leagues are not dominated by one or two teams, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's enough about that.
So let's talk some of the stuff that's going around the NFL.
Sure.
I've read recently where the Carolina Panthers coach has come out and said Bryce Young is currently QB2 behind Andy Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't imagine that's going to stay that long, right? I mean,
6 games.
You think so?
So unless you're Andrew Luck or you're Trevor Lawrence or somebody like that, like, I think that what your teams are gonna do is they're gonna let you play in the preseason. Yep. They're gonna start a reliable starter, whatever that means, air quotes. They're gonna give you time to like dip your toe in the water. And then inevitably when that weaker backup QB who you're starting goes 2-4, 1-5, 3-3, and your crowd's like, man, we had the number 1 overall pick and we took this guy and he's not playing. Put him in there, coach. You know, and then they're going to go, all right. And then you're going to get 2/3 of the season of that guy playing starter, like getting his feet wet, earning opportunities. I don't think that we're talking trade for Quinnen Williams, because I give that about a 0% chance of happening. Everything that he's doing is bluster to get a better contract. And I think that all offseason we basically saw, like, if you're at the top of your respected position market and you do this shit, you end up getting the contract that you want. So
yeah,
he'll get a $22 to $25 million deal before OTAs, I would imagine, for training camp. And then all this will go away. So. This is just the normal formula.
Yeah.
I don't think...
I mean, he hasn't erased his pictures from Instagram yet, so I think it's still okay.
You know, and like, I think there was more smoke with the Lamar Jackson thing than the Quinnen Williams thing, to be honest. I mean, but like, so I saw someone from Woodward Sports put out, like, I'd trade my 1st and 3rd round pick next year for this guy. And I'm like, if the Lions valued that position at the cost of a 1st and a 3rd round pick, I imagine that they would have been more in on defensive tackle in the draft or in free agency. Like, they went out and were aggressive in free agency, and like, not like dumb aggressive. They were like smart aggressive, you know, like that kind of thing, you know, like getting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for like what, 6.5 when he was just hanging out there on the market. Like,
yep.
There's got to be somebody, a competent starter, Poona Ford, or I don't know, maybe he signed with somebody I haven't heard, but like somebody like that you could slot in. But, you know, they traded up in the 3rd round for this guy from Western Kentucky. So I think that they're probably comfortable with where they are as far as defensive tackle and didn't feel the need to make a big move. And this would be a big move. And like, we just haven't seen, outside of the Matthew Stafford trade, where they were clearly rebuilding and that was a way to go ahead and like restock the pantry, so to speak. Like, we have not seen a move of this magnitude done by Brad Holmes without some kind of precursor that would force him into it. Like, Stafford went to ownership and basically requested to be traded.
Yeah.
So
like, I don't want to do a 4-3 build. That's
right. So
trade me to a contender.
So now 3 drafts into Brad Holmes, like, I would say that he has not made a move, whether it's in free agency or the draft, that I would say would, quote unquote, rock the boat as far as like him getting in trouble to like keep his job. Like, their first season they were bad, they had 3 wins. Second season they showed a marked improvement. You know, he was lauded for the moves that he made in the draft the first 2 seasons. This year he's lauded for the moves he made in free agency. And I think that they are going to take another step, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But none of them were risky moves, right? Like, he's stuck by Jared Goff for 2+ seasons now, right? So we're going to go into our plus season here this upcoming season. And, you know, he said before the draft, like, you can get a lot worse at quarterback, right? That's That's true. That's true for
Yep.
everybody. And he is not pressured right now to make a change like that. And like it's probably smart because he's going to be able to like build the foundation, and then like either like so maybe the fourth season of this new front office, they'll be like, well, we need to win a playoff game. Like we need to win the division. We need to be second round of the playoffs or whatever. And like we haven't done it yet with this assortment of players. So like what are we going to do to break through that barrier, right? So I just don't think the pressure's there currently for him to say like, okay, we need to make a move. What can we do to take that next step? They're just continuing to be incremental in their approach to the roster. So
yeah, and they're doing it. And I mean, they got buy-in from Sheila right from the start that this isn't going to be an overnight thing. This isn't going to be a 2-year thing. We're going to do this right, and we're going to build a foundation, and then we're going to build a layer. We're going to build a layer. So until we've gotten a couple years in, maybe 2 years from now, I could see like if we haven't done anything, if we don't make the playoffs this year, the seed will get a little bit warm, right? Sure. Unless there's injuries or something like that. If we also don't make it the next year, then the seed's going to be real hot.
So remember,
it was a 5-year deal, I believe, for Holmes and a 6-year deal for Campbell.
That's right.
So they knew this was going to be this was a big overhaul.
Yeah. So like the thing I think they're positioned to do this year during the season, where I don't think that they were positioned to do it last year because of cap flexibility, is that like if someone became available unexpectedly that they think could help, that fit their team building philosophy, they could make a move. If you're projected to win your division, you're going to be picking in the mid to late 20s.
Yep.
So like that first round pick could very easily start to be converted into, let's go get a veteran player that's proven, as opposed to a rookie, we're going to pick 25.
F them picks, right?
I think that
we're now filling individual specific needs with quality people that we know are quality players, and not the lottery that the draft sometimes is.
Exactly. So, by the way, it should be stated that in 2024, the Rams will have their first round pick available to them for the first time in 8 years. So,
since they picked Goff.
Yeah, since they picked Goff. So,
yeah.
So there you go.
Other things around the NFL. I read that Saquon Barkley turned down a $13 million contract with incentives to go up to 14. Guess that just wasn't enough for him, which boggles my mind.
So we were talking about this a little bit prior to the stream. That contract would have put him solely in position of third highest paid running back in the NFL the moment that he signed it.
Yep.
So to me, the only thing he's on the contract, I believe he's on franchise tag this year. So that's all guaranteed.
I believe so.
So to me, the only reason you would turn that down is if you want to be the highest paid running back for 5 minutes in the NFL, right? So that's fine. That's his right. And like, he's not going to get, I doubt that he will have the opportunity on his third contract to be the highest paid running back in the NFL. So if you're going to get paid that, it has to be right now.
Right.
Can the Giants do it? They just paid Dexter Lawrence. They re-signed Daniel Jones.
$40 million a year.
Leonard Williams, I think, is coming up for an extension at some point. He's going to demand another big salary.
Although they did just get rid of Galladay off of their books. So there's $18 million they got back.
Good job. But anyways, I think the point is that the Giants have salaries that they're going to need to be paying out in the very near future, as do the Detroit Lions. So I mean, like, so if he were to enter the market, he would be a pretty sought after commodity, but like, I still don't know that the market would say he'd be getting 13 a year. Right. So like I've been hearing that Dalvin Cook might not be on the Vikings roster come week 1,
I've heard
and
too.
then like teams like Philly, San Francisco, Kansas City could just add a player like that. So I mean, like, you don't have to worry about a good running back making it to the market. Like they make it to the market all the time, or you can just draft one. So, I think that the Giants have the leverage here that's like, yeah, we love you, dude, but like we can't afford $13 million a year for you. Maybe that's not true, and maybe they're just waiting a year to like another year of being able to rework cap flexibility and like build void years into some deals and free the money up. But like eventually that contract extension for Jones is going to hit.
Yep. So for the main topic today, I figured we would talk about the schedule. New schedule's released. There's a lot of interesting things about the schedule, right? Let's talk initially. Let's talk about primetime games. We've got 4 primetime games and then the Thanksgiving Day game. So we went from basically getting shut out of all that kind of stuff the last couple years to the second most, or tied for the second most primetime games. Now, you and I talked a little bit previously about primetime games. Are they good? Are they bad? I think whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter in as far as I think it shows where the Lions are at as far as what the NFL believes that we're capable of, because they're not going to showboat shitty teams. So they clearly think that we are worth showing in their premium spots. So that at least is a good thing. The respect is coming our way. But we've got some interesting games. The first one against Kansas City in Kansas City. The NFL could have picked 31 other teams to have this game for. It could have been Cincinnati, which would have been a great one. It could have been Buffalo. It could have been a replay of the Super Bowl with Philadelphia. Like, those are all games on their schedule this year. And they chose the Lions. I mean, we're also going to be on their schedule this year just based on the rotation and all that kind of stuff. But they chose us, and I thought that was pretty cool.
It's great. I don't care. So I like the Thanksgiving game because of tradition, but like I get to watch it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, wherever time it is. I don't want to watch a football game at 8 o'clock on a Monday anymore. Like the thing that I think benefits Detroit is like last year they traveled the least amongst almost all NFL teams. I believe they were 32nd in like miles traveled. That's good. Every game they had last year was like noon or 1. That's good. Consistency. Like, I don't want to play on a short week on the road. And they're going to.
We've got it twice.
Right. So, like, I think professional athletes benefit from routine. And so, like, I don't want to do something like week 3, you're wherever. And then you have to go short week on the road to Green Bay. Like, I don't think that bodes well for the Lions. So I would rather see, like, it's not like they got fewer. It's not like they've only got 7 home games or anything like that this year. But like, I would prefer to see a more routine in the schedule. Now, people are happy about it. I understand why they're happy about it.
Right.
That's fine. I don't look at it as respect. I look at it as attention.
Yeah.
So like, the Lions have improved. They have, like, when they, even dating back to the 3-13 season, they have gone out and played hard every week, and so like that makes for good football. It makes for watching good football. So like, I can understand why the NFL would be like, we want that on television. Makes sense. But I don't look at it as respect. I mean, like, if the Detroit Lions had a bad season again, they would lose all of this. So it's about winning and like how much hype your team has. Like what garners respect in the NFL is winning a lot for a long time, consistently winning. So if the Lions want to do that, I will talk about respect. But until then, they're like, as far as I'm concerned, the NFL views them as like a shiny coin, to put out on the the NFL schedule. So I mean, and that's great, and I'm sure that more people are going to get to see the Detroit Lions play, but I don't think it's respect. I think it's just cashing in on an improving team.
Oh, well, that's what their job is, to cash in on everything that you can do, right? So, we've got I got on the scrolly ticker there. We've got all the primetime games when they are.
Scrolly ticker.
The scrolly ticker, not just the regular ticker. That's the scrolly ticker.
Oh, we love it. We love the scroll.
But one of the things that we'll do toward the end here, we'll kind of go through our schedule here and kind of pick the winners and losers, which ones we think we're going to win, what our schedule is going to be. A couple of other things I wanted to point out, though, is, let me see if I can find the right one here. Strength schedule. Let's see if I can get zoomed in. I guess I'm kind of zoomed in. I believe we are 20th in strength of schedule. So our opponents have just a teeny bit under 500. Last year, we were the 5th easiest. This year, we are the 20th hardest. So I guess that'd be the 12th easiest, if my math serves.
Yeah, it's getting harder, right?
Yeah, it's getting harder. And I think that's going to be more of a challenge for us.
Well, it should. I mean,
yeah.
If you win more games, the NFL is going to put you up against more difficult teams. And I know that there's a formula for how the schedule gets made, right? Like you always play your division opponents twice. You play one other division in your conference once. You play another division in your conference, half of the teams.
And then you play the whatever place you were in your division. I believe you played that place in like 4 other divisions or something. It's something weird like that.
Oh, interesting.
So if you were the best in your division, then you're going to play the best in a couple of the other divisions that weren't part of the rest of the formula. I believe is the way that worked. Gotcha. So it's getting harder for us. But to be honest, if we're as good as we think we are, if we are a playoff team, if we are a Super Bowl contender, 500 teams, this shouldn't be hard. We're not going to win them all. But this should be a challenge, but we should be able to get through it okay. We'll come to that one. What was the other thing that we're going to talk about? The other thing I was going to kind of mention because we're talking about just the schedule being released in general. The NFL does a pretty amazing thing with the way that they do schedules. So, I think you can kind of see it here. There are a quadrillion different options with 272 games across the 32 teams, 272 games over 18 weeks with buys and all that kind of stuff. There were a quadrillion options for the schedule. And there's a really interesting, I'll throw the link into the chat, but there was a really interesting article on the AWS blogs about the kind of a look inside of like making the schedule. And like just 10 years ago, they were doing this on like whiteboards to get a couple schedule options. And, they had a team of people and there were thousands of hours. And now they've got something like 4,000 servers that they run every night to do 100,000 schedule options a night to start narrowing down that quadrillion essentially and they've got something like 2,000 different basically business rules of like, all right, we can't have these teams back to back or whatever it is. Like there's 2,000 different rules or something. It's a complicated process. So, and then of course every team has different requests. I know the Rams asked to not play in Green Bay in November, December, and the NFL still scheduled them. It was like November 4th or something but they still scheduled them in November. They can't get every request. But I thought it was super interesting. I'll throw this link into the chat if you want to take a look at it. But on their NFL schedule site, they talk about 26,000 factors built into the AI and the machine learning that goes through making that. They're running over 100,000 potential season schedules until it finds the optimal one. There were some other interesting things in there, but I just thought it was super interesting when it comes to like actually creating the schedule and the technology behind it. And it's absurd. So I'll throw the link in the chat for anybody that wants to read that blog article.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I guess what are your thoughts on the strength of schedule outside of kind of what we already talked about?
I think they improved about where they should be based upon like low end of the middle of the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay. So they had a winning record, 9-8, but they were really bad the year before. So how real is 9-8, right? So we can't know until the next season. So I think that they probably got put right about where they should have been put. So,
right.
Other
like
thoughts
you said,
is
part of it's just kind of built into the formulas they use anyway. But
I mean, I think it's good that you get to play the 6 teams in the NFC North now that they're weaker opponents. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I don't know too many other divisions that would be like, oh no, we have to play the NFC North. Like
well,
like
they're gonna
the
be
Lions, you'd be like, oh, they're gonna play tough. I don't really want to play them. But
I think the Vikings are gonna be pretty tough too, to be honest. I think we are gonna be the class of the North, are the Vikes and us.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings were like, well, we're right there with you guys, like a game out, there at the end of the season. So
I think the North is there for us to take, though.
Yeah.
Other kind of quick Lions related things before we kind of get into our game by game analysis. I wanted to point out, I thought it was really interesting. The NFL.com brought their the top 5 position groups in football, and the Lions made number 4 our offensive line. They list as the 4th best position group of all the different position groups of all the teams. They've got us at our offensive line as number 4, which I thought that sounds about right. Like Decker and Sewell, they're a quality tandem. Ragnow is obviously, he's a Pro Bowl center. Jonah Jackson's played great. We got Vaitai in Glasgow. We got some depth at guard. Like I think we're a pretty solid, best offensive line I've seen us have possibly in my lifetime.
Yeah, I could go there. I can't think of a better one. I might be able to come up with an individual better player than the one we have on the line, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But this seems like a pretty good group. Certainly a foundational piece of the offense.
Yeah.
So, and they invested pretty heavily in it. So,
yeah. And then the other thing I want to kind of mention was Hendon Hooker. Obviously, he's injured, but he's still taking sort of reps. He's taking mental reps. He's standing behind the quarterbacks and kind of watching the plays develop and kind of figuring things out mentally while he's limited physically. But I was mostly interested in Dan Campbell's comment about this as being his redshirt year, and the plan is to not play him for quote a long time, or a long time. I think he's actually long time. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to Goff's health.
Sure.
Right? If he gets hurt after week 8, week 9, if Hooker's there, he's going to be in, and he may not give it up. It may be a Tom Brady situation. Not that Hooker's going to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks of all time, but I think once we get him in, he's going to show the things that he can do that are unique to him on our team. So Goff better hope that he stays healthy.
Yeah, I think that Like I am ready to see what I would call a modern NFL quarterback in Detroit. So like,
Yeah.
give him this year. He clearly cannot play right now. So I mean, like,
Right.
if it sounds, I watched an interview that he gave earlier this week, I think, maybe last week, and like what he said, like he's there to like bond with his teammates, learn the playbook. He's like, and I like what he said about taking mental reps. Like he's envisioning what it's going to look like. Like I think that there's merit to that, and eventually he's going to. I would love to see that too, Dr. Detroit. That sounds great. I would like to see what he could do at the helm. Like, and so like I think that what you'll probably see this year is like it's going to be Goff and Sudfeld, and then he'll be on the pup list or IR the entire season, depending. Maybe he'll come back, and then I think what you'll see next year is like he'll go into camp. That would be the last year that Goff's contract is the current contract. He's under contract with the Lions, and then you might see it as like, where do we stand? Like, let's give Hooker the preseason. Goff gets the regular season. See where we stand. Maybe they get a little playing time. Either way, we'll readjust for 2025. So,
yeah.
But I don't think that he is poised at all to take away Goff's job unless there's something cataclysmic that happens. Like Goff gets either injured, which would be like the Tom Brady methodology for how to become a starting quarterback in the NFL, or he just literally blows the doors off with what he can do physically. So we'll have to wait and see. Oh, I see what you got. You got your notes covering up the ads. Illegal. All right.
Yeah. Anything else schedule wise you wanted to talk about, or
no,
before we get into our game by game? Obviously we haven't seen anybody. We don't know if there's gonna be any injuries. We'll probably do one more right before the start of the regular season, but let's do our first blush. Kansas City on the road, week 1.
That's a loss.
Thursday night football.
I'm sorry. Like, I love Detroit, but Patrick Mahomes is just better than Jared Goff, and he's better than every other quarterback in the NFL. And they're the Super Bowl champions, and they're at home. And they're probably, I don't know if they're going to be raising their banners that night or whatever, but like, I don't want to
assume so.
I don't want to play Kansas City in Kansas City. Like, I think that's a loss.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, Kansas City, I believe, has the best home record of any team in the NFL over like the last 6 years.
Yeah,
and
in that time period,
the best quarterback in the NFL over the last 6 years.
It really stands to reason.
And we've got Jared Goff on the road.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
his
it's not
road
that
numbers versus home numbers
are pretty
Goff
stark.
Was horrid on the road.
Yeah.
So, there's a reason why we're 6.5 or 7-point underdogs. I agree. I would love to see us just come out and shock the hell out of them. Right. Maybe they're confident. Maybe it's a Super Bowl hangover, whatever it is. I would love to see us shock shock the hell out of them and win. But I'm certainly not putting money on that one.
Hey, Mark, can you link that in the chat, please? That'd be awesome.
Whenever I might have a bad day, I just go back and watch David Pike after Hooker got drafted. Him crying with his head down for 15 minutes. I feel all better in just a few minutes.
I mean, there's not too many people I would revel in their fear and like their sorrow, but he's one of them. So, Mike, are the blue games road games?
I would assume that because this is gray. No. All of the gray ones are road games.
Blues got to be at home then, right?
Blues got to be at home. Yep. So week 2, we got Seattle at home.
Yeah, I'm going to give that a W.
Dub. All right. So I think so too. I just don't think I have never really been a believer in Geno. So
the thing that bothers me about Seattle is their running game. Like, the Lions drafted Jack Campbell, they drafted Broderick Martin, re-signed a new secondary. They should be better against the run, but Seattle has made significant gains to their offensive line, and they have great skill position players. Lockett, Metcalf, I believe they have Jackson Smith and Jigba on their roster. They have Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III as a 1-2 punch in the backfield. That's pretty good. The only real thing that I think gives us an advantage is that I think they're younger. I know, like, overall our roster is younger, but like those guys being out there, like I'm giving them the win because they're at home. And like coming from Seattle to Detroit is a flight. So I think these teams are pretty evenly matched.
I can get behind that. I think it's gonna be a dub. I think we just outclass them just a little bit in almost every facet. So, and you only need to be just a little bit better to win. So,
right.
Week 3 at home against Hotlanta.
So I feel this is a win. So like my issue with Atlanta is they are so all in on their run game that I wonder if they're going to be too one-dimensional. And I wonder if like this group of Detroit Lions defenders, 3 weeks in, assuming health, are just going to be able to like we're gonna put 8 in the box and dare you to throw. It'll be Desmond Ritter's first full season starting. He does have Kyle Pitts. He does have Drake London as receiving threats. I mean, you could say Bijan Robinson as well, but I think that they are very run focused, and they are also coming to Detroit, and so you can. I just wonder if they're too one-dimensional. So I'm going to say this is a win.
Yeah, they were the number 1 run team last year, even before taking Bijan Robinson, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So a plethora of riches,
I suppose.
Week 4, we've got our first primetime game in Green Bay. The good news is it's not going to be it's September, so maybe it's a little chilly, but it's not winter. It's not debilitatingly cold or anything like that. It is on the road. It is in prime time, which is not necessarily where Goff has shined much in the past, at least for us. So, but with Aaron Rodgers leaving, Jordan Love taking over, I don't think they're better than us, and I think we can beat them on the road. I think this is a year where we could potentially sweep the NFC North.
So I think this is a loss. So
interesting. Okay.
I don't like going on the road on a short week to play a division rival. I just don't like it. So,
well, technically it's a long week. We got an extra day. It's the following week will be short.
Isn't the Green Bay game on a Thursday?
Oh, yeah. Shit. I thought I read Monday Night Football, and I'm like, yeah, you're right.
So you're going to have 4 days to prep. One of those days is travel. So
I just can't read.
I understand.
Words
are hard.
Words are hard, but they mean things.
So first of all, I think that if you go from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, you're downgrading at quarterback. However, how steep is the downgrade? So I have liked what Green Bay has done in the draft the last couple of years. They still have what I consider to be pretty solid defense, pretty solid offensive line. And if Jordan Love is better than expected, I don't know. But like the majority of what I'm thinking here is that short week on the road, division opponent, I'm going to say I'm going to hedge toward loss. But once again, not surprised whatsoever if the Lions go in and just play a really solid game and take the victory. So, yeah. Plus, I have less faith in Goff than most other people. So,
yeah. I mean, I rode Goff. Someone was saying, "Well, who rank the NFC North quarterbacks?" I'm like, I'd say probably Kirk Cousins is number 1. Rode Goff is number 2.
Oh, sure.
Justin Fields is number 3. Jordan Love is number 4, and then primetime Kirk Cousins is 5, and on the road, Jared Goff is number 6. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So week 5, we now have a long week, right? So we played on Thursday, and we're going to be coming home against Carolina, the number 1 overall draft choice, at home.
Could be Bryce Young's first game. I don't know. So I'm not going to assume that. And I don't know who their other quarterback is. Andy Dalton?
Andy Dalton is QB1 right now.
That's not great.
That's why they drafted Young.
Yeah. So remember, this Carolina team absolutely handed it to Detroit late last year when Detroit was playing well.
Yep.
So
happened to be on the road too.
I'm torn. Yeah. So this time they're coming to Detroit. The Lions have a long week to rest and prep.
Yep. And they're pissed. Revenge.
Right. They're upset. So I would think that, like, if Detroit is going to beat Atlanta, which is going to be pretty much a one-dimensional team, they should be able to beat Carolina, which I look at pretty similarly. Like, they have Adam Thielen. They don't have DJ Moore any longer. You know, their wide receiving options are not good. I think they're going to be pretty run heavy. You know, and if you're starting a rookie QB or Andy Dalton, like, that's not, I don't think, in your favor, especially like Jared Goff is at least established in this offense now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call this one a win, but I'm worried about it because of how handily a team that's 90% the same as last year beat the Lions. So we'll see. Anyways, this will be Deuce Staley revenge, right? So.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think this will end up being a win. I just think that we're better than them. I think our quarterback is better than them. I think our defense is better than theirs. I think our offensive line is better than their defensive line. I don't think we're so much better that it's going to be a blowout by any means. But I also think we're at home and we have the revenge factor. Sure. So I think all of that kind of adds up to a win. And I'd be curious to see what like Dr. D, Brian, Joey, you guys throw your thoughts out in the chat as well, or anybody else that might be in that I haven't seen. Don, see Don's in there. All right, so week 6, we are currently either 4-1 or 3-2, depending on which of us are right. Mm-hmm. Going into Tampa Bay. The Tom Brady-less Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, so I think this is going to be a win for the Lions. I do think that Goff is more consistent than oh my God, why can I not think of his name? He was the Rams quarterback at the end of Baker Mayfield.
Baker, yep.
However, I think that Baker is capable of having an amazing game out of nowhere where Jared Goff is not. And so I wonder which QB for Tampa Bay is going to show up. And I think about the matchups. You have Chris Godwin. You have Mike Evans. The thing that I think would be a deciding factor here is, like, is James Houston going to make it like an impact in this game? Like, this would need to be like a James Houston game. Like, even if you move Hutchinson away from Wirfs, I don't know that that's definitively a better matchup for Hutchinson.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that what you want to do is you want to put the, like, bendy guy on Wirfs and then let Hutch power rush from the other side. And so, like, I think that if the Lions are going to win this game, it's going to be something like Houston or Pascal or somebody generates pressure on the opposite side of Hutch that, like, causes pressure, creates a turnover, gets us ahead in that kind of statistic. And then I just think that the overall grindiness of the Lions probably wins them that game. So I'm going to say win here, but like I think that these teams are close. You're going to put them in as a loss?
I'm going to go with a loss for a couple reasons. Number one, if I'm right in week 4, I don't think we're quite good enough to start out with a loss and then rattle off 5 straight wins.
Sure.
With 3 of those games being on the road. Second, I still think that we're going to struggle on the road a little bit. And, you know, like you, I think Baker Mayfield can come out of the blue, win a game. And I think this is one of those. And I don't know, like I obviously haven't looked at what their schedule looks like up to now. Are they pissed off because they lost a game the previous week to a division rival or something? I don't know. But I feel like this is probably going to end up being a loss on the road. And unfortunately, going into week 7, I also think Baltimore is going to be a loss on the road.
So I have this as a loss as well. And I have it basically for one reason. Like I think that Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. So I think the OBJ signing could give them some spark. I think they'll have what's not Zay Jones? It's that kid from Boston. Zay Flowers.
Yep.
And then a healthy Rashad Bateman plus Mark Andrews is asking a lot of any secondary to cover. There's still a decent running team. Lamar seems to make like a lot of plays by breaking outside of structure. And their defense will have a whole year. They're down Marcus Peters, but they will have a whole year of Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, and they might be playing Trenton Simpson over the other guy who they might cut. I think that, and plus they're gonna have David Ojabo, who was a first round pick of theirs last year, as a pass rusher back. So I think their pass rush is going to improve. I think their coverage is going to be good across the middle, and I think that they're better at the quarterback position, and we're in their house.
Yep.
So I think that it's going to be close, maybe not like a 66-yard field goal close, but like I think that plus they have that guy, right? They still have that guy. So I think that for those reasons, this one's going to be a loss for me.
Yeah, I agree.
But I've got some wins to rattle off here coming up.
Yeah, the exact same thing. For all the same reasons that I won't have to read what he said.
Right.
So let's move on to 8. We are our second primetime game. This is Monday Night Football against the Raiders at home. Ford Field will be going nuts. We just came off of 1 or 2 losses, depending on which of us are correct. I think we win. I think we shine at home on Monday night against the Raiders.
Yeah, I think they get up for this game. So I think that this is a kind of game that like a young roster just like loves. I've got them taking the win here. This will be the second week that Jamison Williams is back, hopefully. And so like he'll have at least one game where he got in and saw action, and like maybe they can finally debut him, or whatever, as he's supposed to be played this week. So yeah, I've got this as a win too.
And then we actually have one of the latest bye weeks that we've had in a while. Like we always have them so freaking early.
I always think the later
the entire last half of the year, you're just like, I'm all banged up. This is gonna suck.
I always think the later that you can have your bye week, the better.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm glad that they have made it to this position with their bye. I'm this is a plus for me.
And Brian is going out on a limb saying that we are not going to lose week 9.
Okay.
So
that's the bye week. I put money on that.
Yep. Of course, we say that someone's going to end up with an ACL or something stupid.
Don't do it.
I know. I said it out loud.
Yeah.
But I didn't say who. I just said somebody. For all I know, it's Will Harris.
It could be.
Was that better? If I'm going to name somebody.
Yeah.
All right. So we come back out of the bye, week 10 on the road against the Chargers and Justin Herbert.
So I have this as a loss. So you're going to the coast. It's against, I think, a better quarterback. I don't know. I think the rest of the team, I think the Lions minus Goff are better than the Chargers minus Herbert, but I think Herbert is so much better than Goff that that's the difference maker.
Yeah.
So I have this one down as a loss, but it's probably really close. And I just don't see the Lions getting blown out this season by any of these teams. I didn't see it against New England either or Carolina, but I think this one's going to be a loss, and we're going to start to go on a tear.
What's up, Bo? Welcome, buddy. I agree. I think the Chargers have always kind of underperformed. I can't believe that Herbert has not. Have they even made the playoffs yet? Did they make it last year and then lose, or did they last year they didn't make it?
Remember if they made it? I think so, but they got bounced.
Maybe.
Wait, where did they pick in the? Yeah, they must have made the playoffs because they were in the 20s when it came to the draft.
Okay, but I just feel like they've always kind of underperformed a little bit, and I think he's too good of a quarterback, and they've got too many good players around them to have that happen too many times. The question will then fall down to the coaching and stuff, right? If all the players are good, then why are we losing?
Right.
Probably potentially scheme and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go with a loss there too. I don't feel like we can beat those guys. I think we can beat those guys, but I don't think we will.
Yeah, if the game was played 10 times, I think that they probably win 5 or 6 times,
Yeah. Week 11 at home against Chicago. It's the week before Thanksgiving. I think that like I said, I think we can probably just about sweep the NFC North. So I'm gonna call this one a win. I just don't see them beating us at home.
Yeah, I have this as a win. So I like the strides that Chicago made in the offseason. I don't think that the strides they made puts them on the same level as Detroit. I am still terrified of Justin Fields.
Yeah. Dr. Detroit, he says, I'm at 10 wins. Are you at 10 wins at this point in the season or overall? Weeks. Because are we undefeated for you, buddy?
I appreciate you stopping by, Bo. I know that's tough to. Don't get caught watching our podcast at work. We don't want you to get a write-up.
But if you're going to get caught at work doing something, it might might as well be us, right?
I mean, if you're just do the job, we're fine. We know that you're a supporter.
All right, so week 12, we've got yet another highlight game. It's not necessarily prime time, but it is our Thanksgiving Day game at home.
I'm gonna
Green Bay.
I don't care. There's no logic to this one. We're gonna win a game in my lifetime on Thanksgiving.
It's gonna be this one, right?
And it's gonna be this one. So I've got them winning at home on Thanksgiving against the hated Packers. Let's go.
I agree. We've won some in your lifetime. I mean, you're an old guy.
I still remember the one where the Titans beat the shit out of us at home. That was just a low point for me. Yeah. So
I think Tom Brady played us on Thanksgiving one year and just annihilated us.
Yeah. And I'm tired of that.
Yeah. It's not going to happen this year.
Time for us to kill someone.
Yep. Let's do it. So. I think so too. I think we'll get those guys. Even though it is a short week, back-to-back division opponents, I just think that
you don't have to travel.
Yeah.
It's a tradition game. If you can't get up for that game, if Campbell can't be like, this is Detroit at Thanksgiving at home, if we can't get that going, there's a roll.
Yeah. So we go from back-to-back home games to back-to-back road games starting in Nolens, week 13. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm not exactly sure. I think we're not going to win them, or we're not going to lose them all on the road, right? We've already decided we're going to lose probably to Kansas City. You've got us losing in Green Bay. I've got us losing in Tampa Bay. And we both are picking us to lose against Baltimore and in Los Angeles for the Chargers. I don't think we're going to lose this game on the road. We're gonna pick our shit back up and get it going. We're gonna come off a big game on Thanksgiving. We're pumped. we've got a lot of W's in the column, and we see Chicago coming up, Denver coming up, the Vikings coming up. I think we see the playoffs, and I think we put it together.
So right now in my on my guess, my list, I've got us 1-4 on the road, but
Okay.
that gets a lot better in the next 2 weeks. So I have them beating the Saints on the road, who I just have no respect for, the Saints. I think their defense lost players to free agency. I think they're the players that they had that were good are another year older. I think David Carr is a version of Jared Goff, neat. But like they have Alvin Kamara, we have Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't see where they have an advantage over us in any phase of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that they're the younger, hungrier, better roster. And I think that New Orleans is hanging on to a cliff edge by their fingernails. And so this is, you walk into their building and you kick them off. So like, I think this is a win for the Lions. I don't know that this one's even going to be really close.
If there is going to be a blowout on the road, I think this is it.
Yeah.
Right. Although the next week against Chicago also could potentially be a blowout on the road. I think we'll win, right? But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be closer because it is going to be the middle of December in Chicago outside. So that benefits them. But I do think that we're going to pull this one out.
I have this as a win as well. I remember last year we only beat them by a single point in one of the two meetings. Yep. The other meeting was very decisive. So I think that this will be closer, but I just think Detroit's the better team. Like, I think that Justin Fields was one of the most sacked quarterbacks last year. It's not because he's a bad quarterback. It's just that he suffers from the same problem that Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson have, is they just hold the ball forever. And, and I think that like the way that Detroit plays defense is that they're going to have James Houston, Aiden Hutchinson, somebody going after Justin Fields, and like, Jeff Okuda's not there to return an interception for a touchdown this time, but like Emmanuel Mosley is. So I think that
I think with Campbell on the squad, I think he also kind of shuts down some of those plays where Fields maybe squirts loose and picks up a first down. I think a guy like Campbell could shut those kind of plays down.
He had better.
Yeah, right. So at this point, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are officially over 500 for the season. We've got 9 wins, regardless of which of us is right with weeks 4 and 6. So going into week 15 at home against Denver.
It's a win. I don't believe
to be determined.
I don't believe in Denver. I don't care about Sean Payton. I don't think there's any resurrecting Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
They may have traded Jerry Jeudy at this point. Like, I don't know what is the identity of the Denver Broncos? I don't think we have any idea what that is. So like, can Sean Payton establish that in 14 games? Maybe. I think it took the Lions more than a year to establish who they are. So I don't give Denver any credit.
Yeah.
For that. I think that it's at home. They have to travel to us. I think that's a win more games at home kind of a scenario. So like, this is a win for me.
Yep. And I think that we're really trying to focus on putting up a good finish toward the end of the season. All right. Week 16. This is the day before Christmas Eve. On the road in Minnesota.
Our chat's in the dome. Our chat's not going to like me. So this is a loss for me.
Yep.
So they have Justin Jefferson, who I think is virtually uncoverable. And they drafted Jordan Addison, TBD, but I like him as a player to replace Adam Thielen. I think they're generally better, maybe, or at least they didn't get that much worse. But like, I just think that Kirk Cousins is a better version of Jared Goff than Jared Goff is.
Yeah.
And we're at their place. I think about it and I'm like, I think we'll win the North, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer than most people probably want to think it's going to be. I mean, it's hard not to be average in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I think that a team like Minnesota, playoff team from last year, probably overachieved a little bit, might regress a little to the mean. They're still a good team.
Yeah.
You know, they have Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator now, so I think that's a step up. I have this as a loss.
I agree. Partially because it's on the road. I think even though it's a Christmas Eve day, Christmas Eve day game, I think it's gonna be a lot harder for us because our guys are gonna be away from their families. It's a travel day, right? You're traveling. I think there's gonna be just little things like that add up, right? Those things do matter. They shouldn't. Keep home at home and work at work, but that's we're human. That's not going to be the case, right? And it's just going to be easier on the Minnesota players knowing when I go home after this game, I'm going to see my family and have Christmas Eve, and not having to deal with a flight and getting back, and I can't read my kids "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" and all that kind of stuff. So I do think that those things add up, and we won't get there. But I do think the following week we're going to surprise Dallas on the road and come back with the dub.
Oh, great! I don't. So
no, all right.
So to me, Dallas seems like a team that, for whatever reason, seems to have the Lions' number. I don't know what it is. Maybe the color schemes are too close, or something weird. But it's in Dallas. It's toward the end of the season. They could be fighting for winning the division. I think that they're going to be up for this game. And I like Dak Prescott better than I like Jared Goff. CeeDee Lamb is good. I don't.
You like Prescott over Goff?
Yes.
Really?
Micah Parsons is an absolute all-star, amazing player.
Yes.
I think that that's just going to be a problem because they're going to put him wherever it's most advantageous for them. Do I think it's going to be a blowout? No. I think that they'll win, and that's why. So
I've got us as with the W there. I don't think I'm not a believer in. I'm not obviously a big believer in Goff, but I'm definitely not a believer in Dak Prescott. I don't think he's as good as the hype that he and the Cowboys get. So, yeah, I just think this is going to be. If the Lions are going to do anything in the playoffs, they need a statement game.
Sure.
Right? I think this is our statement game. This is the one where Dan Campbell comes in and gets those guys to beat somebody they shouldn't. A very good team on the road in Jerry's World, this giant, beautiful stadium. And with the season, the playoffs, and seeding and stuff like that on the line, I think we're going to come in, and that's going to be our statement game. And then I think that we follow it up in Minnesota with a W at home as well, just to kind of keep that momentum into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that they will probably win the division in this game. So I think that this will be a win at home. I don't think it'll be close. Figure it out. So I have them at 11-6 on the season. So that's 2 more games than they won last year. They will have gone, I believe. Let's see. I have them splitting with Minnesota and Green Bay. So they'll be 4-2 in the division. And I had them winning against Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Chicago on the road. So they will be 3-5 on the road. So I don't think I have them losing at home.
Okay.
Yeah, the home games look pretty weak. I mean, Seattle, Atlanta, Carolina, Vegas, Chicago, Green Bay, Denver, Minnesota. That is not a murderer's row.
Yeah.
So to me, if you're 4-2 in the division and you're 11-6 overall, that's probably good enough to win the division. Probably, maybe even on a tiebreaker with Minnesota. I have them winning the division, going into the playoffs, and I think it's going to depend on who they play. If they get stuck playing So like what happens if like Dallas and Philadelphia finish 1 and 2 in some combination in their division, and then it's like who's in the West? San Francisco and Seattle. You know, you are going to have to play one of those two teams. I don't like that. So you're rooting for Seattle in that matchup. So like I would rather play another division winner than like the wild card team.
So which one, like, so of these games, which one do you think is going to be the most important game that kind of either it's a statement game or it's the thing that's going to affect our playoffs more? You know, for example, Cowboys, like we lose to them, maybe they end up in they win their division instead of the Eagles. What do you think is like a key game, and why do you think it's one of the key games?
It's the first one. If they can beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, that is look what we just did. Fucking That's like, oh, okay, we belong here. We just beat the Super Bowl champions in their house. Like we ruined banner night. Like we're starting off 1-0. So like to me, if you want to set the tone, like that first game counts as much as that last game. So like if you won the first game and you lost the last one, you could still end up 11-6 and in the same position. But if you win the first game, you could get another win on your overall record. So like to me, if you go into Kansas City and you win that game, you might see the Lions at like 13 or 14 wins. And then you could talk about them maybe even challenging for the bye, depending on how they do. And like a lot of this is going to be dependent upon injury. A lot of it's going to be dependent upon what the turnover ratio looks like and all that stuff. But if you go into Kansas City, that is without Jameson Williams and beat them on the road, that is a shot of confidence that I don't know can be replicated at any other point in the season.
I agree. I do think that I kind of wish this was not the first game. It's just because I don't think we're going to win, and I don't want to see us start out the season with a loss, right? I would love to see that after, like if swapping the Raiders and Kansas City, because I think we're gonna lose there. I don't know, or maybe after these two, because we've come back on. We came back. We won a couple games at home against Chicago and Green Bay. Starting in New Orleans with a win and then getting beat after Thanksgiving when it's, against the Super Bowl champs. Like I'd rather have that just because I just don't think that we're going to, but I think that would be a huge deal for us if we end up winning there. Like I said, I think my statement game, my big one is going to be week 17. Even if we lose a couple of these that we think that we're going to win, I think this is going to be such a big, important game. It's going to be big for the NFC East, right? It's going to be a potentially thing that may decide that entire division. I think it may decide whether we win our division or not when it comes to our overall record, seeding. And I think having a victory against a high-end team that close to the end of the season is going to be super important. So that's kind of my game. But I totally agree. Like if we can come out and shock Kansas City, it does so much for us.
So Brian in the chat has asked why Drew, and I don't know to what he is referring.
So Brian,
I'm happy to explain my thoughts.
Yeah.
So Brian, if you could throw a little bit more onto the why Drew, I'd be happy to answer the question. If he's still in the chat.
Yeah. So anyway, let's we'll talk slowly to see if Brian's going to respond. But let me stop sharing my screen here, put our beautiful faces on. So one of the things that we've kind of talked about in the past is we're looking at changing for from the Casual GM podcast to building the pride. So we're going to keep working towards that, and hopefully we'll have that going once we get closer to start of season or preseason. All right, divisional games.
So if he means like, why do I think that we'll be 4-2 in games in the division, or why I would rather play like the divisional round of the playoffs, I'm not certain which. I'll do both real quick. I think when you play other teams regularly, there's a better insight into how to match up against them. You spend more time dealing with them. You spend more time thinking about them. So I don't know. I think Detroit's the strongest team in the division. I don't know that they're so much stronger than the rest of the teams in the division that they can just hope to go 5-1, 6-0. So I think 4-2 is a nice hedge. If you're talking about the playoffs picture, I think that I would rather play the winner of the NFC South, that's the team I want to play is the winner of the NFC South, because that looks like one of the weakest divisions in football. Games in the playoffs. What I don't want is to play. So, like, I think that the wild card team, either coming out of the NFC East or the NFC West, is going to be better than the divisional winner for the NFC South. And so I would rather play those guys. I always want to play the weakest teams. I don't care.
Right.
I want to get wins, and like no one gives a shit like who you played, when it comes to like, oh, did you hoist a banner? Neat. Okay.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. I don't care how we get there. So like, I don't want to have to play. I don't want to have to go like Dallas, Minnesota, play Dallas again. That seems tough.
Or Philadelphia.
And like, I don't know. I mean, like for San Francisco, it's just such a well-coached team.
I'm curious to see what their quarterback situation is going to look like, right? That's going to be the big question mark.
I don't get what they're doing. Like, you really believe in Brock Purdy? What the hell? I mean, like, neat. But, like, that is the most QB-friendly system in the NFL. You don't really know what you have in Trey Lance. You spent all this capital to get him, and now you're going to let the Mr. Irrelevant take the snaps? You get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't go, I mean, like, maybe they just didn't think they could go all in again. But, like, I would like this team so much better with, like, Baker Mayfield on it than the guys they have.
It would be, I mean, it's built for a guy like Baker, to be honest.
Right. I even wondered if maybe Tom Brady would come out of retirement because he grew up a Niners fan. He's from California. And, like, he wanted to play for the Niners when he was in college. So, like, I thought, oh, shit, here's the time. Here's the opportunity. Nope, didn't do it. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It'll be curious to see how that goes. I'm excited for the regular season to start, even though it's months away. The NFL will keep reeling us in slowly with little things. So I think that's all we got for tonight, isn't it, buddy?
I can't think of anything else.
All right. Well, we will be back next Tuesday, 7 p.m., same time, same place. As always, like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. We are at 75 subs, which is awesome, and we're trying to get to triple digits. So let's do that. Pound that like button.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then email questions, casualgmpodcast@gmail.com. Or Twitter @casualgm1 on Twitter.
And I'll just leave you with this just real quick. Devonta Adams says he and the Las Vegas Raiders front office don't see eye to eye right now.
Oh,
I'd rather trade for him than Quinnen Williams. So,
what would you trade for him?
I would give up a 1 and a mid-round pick next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got the cap space. That's the best part, right?
If you want to win a playoff game, go get Devonta Adams. That's a guaranteed help.
Yeah. Can't get any worse. I mean, like, literally, not that we're that bad, but like, he makes anybody just better.
Right.
So, all right. We will see you guys next week. Drewster, good chatting with you.
You too, Mike. Have a good one.
That's yeah.